welcome back to another edition of the Service Connection Podcast. I'm Bruce Fontaine. I'll be your host for the next, 4 or 5 hours. Nah, just kidding. But I do want to say, please, veterans, like, subscribe, and by all means, please do share so we can help other veterans. Let's get right into the good stuff. I am so excited. I have been waiting. I just told him a little while ago, I feel like I've been waiting for Santa Claus to come, and he's finally arrived. And give this guy room. I want to welcome Bill, TheSaltyOldMarine. Bill, thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
You know, I am just amazed. You know, for the people who don't know about your channel, I know you have well over 600 videos, and you have been, if my research is correct, on about a little over a year. Is that in the ballpark?
Yeah, I believe we're at a year and 3 or 4 months now.
Wow. So just for the, simple math, 16 months, and you've got 15,000 subscribers. That's amazing, Bill.
Yep, 15,000, that's right.
And that's doing your job and being authentic. And I have to touch on one thing because I know that you have over 600 because anybody, anybody can see it. But what I thought was super cool was I have literally watched over 300 of them. And
wow.
Yes, I have. And including your some of your most recent ones as early as this morning. And I watched it, having my breakfast, and I got to be honest with you, Bill, I thought you were speaking to me directly because it was 44 years after I got out that I applied for benefits. So let's talk a little bit about that because I thought that was a really great subject that, it was perfect timing.
Cool.
So what can
I tell you?
Well, I know you and I are close in age. That much I know for sure. I'm 66. I did retire when I was 59, and it was about September, October-ish. I told my wife, I said, I've got a little bit more gas in the tank, and I want to just keep on trucking, And so this is, my new venture on behalf of my company. It was a guy named Wes and I. It was our idea. And, just like when you started yours, we all start from zero. There's just no getting around that. You just don't start with 15,000 like yourself. And,
no.
And, Bill, quite frankly, I think I would hope that the Service Connection podcast gets to 7,500 in a year. I don't want to go too far out with it. You know what I mean? But our expectations are high. That's just
sure.
I think we get that from being in the military, honestly. So, how long were you in, Bill?
I was in for 6 years.
6. Okay, right. So we were in at the same time because I got out I was in from 80 to 82, and I think you were in there during that time, right?
79 to 85.
Yeah, there you go. And you, like myself, what I got from your video, and I kind of knew some of this going through some of your 300 videos that I've watched personally. I thought it was, you and I, even though you were a Marine and I was an Army combat engineer, you were an MP, right? I think
that's correct. Yes.
Yeah, we are in that mindset where I don't know. I'll tell you exactly what happened. I'm ETSing, and it's like closing on a house. It's like a stack of paperwork, if you remember right. I mean, I don't think it's any different with the Marines versus the Army. It's just the U.S. military. And there was like sign here, sign here, sign here, and we got to like the last one. And I said, "What is this for?" He goes, "Well, we're going to give you 10% for your surgery that you had when you got hurt while you served." I'm like, okay. And at that time, it was like $67 a month. But the guy said, he goes, "That's what you'll always get." And that's where I thought I was like dead in the water.
Yeah, yeah.
And then people like you, Bill, listening to it and doing my research and finding out, wow, what a crock of crap that was.
It's true.
Yeah. And then I did not, and again, I'm reverting back to your previous video of this morning, or your newest one. I did not have my STRs, and I still have not physically got them in my hand. But I did go to my VSO, and she kind of turned the computer around, and this will tell you how old we are, Bill. I got a chance to look at my service treatment records, and she goes, "You, my friend, have a plethora of stuff in here. Headaches times gazillion." Bruce, did you know that you were in do you remember, tell me about the military vehicle head-on crash that you were in. Bill, I'm telling you the God's honest truth, raise my hand, I did not remember it.
Oh, my.
It must have been buried like way back there, and all of a sudden it came like, whew, it hit me back in the face. And I remember this Spec 4 that was with me, Ron, and I ended up in a cervical collar for a month. So it just goes to show you, and like my records were like this long, and of course, and you can attest to this too, listen, soldier, you don't go to sick call unless you are sick or unless you feel like you're going to die. And so I have and everything's not done yet, don't get me wrong. But I will tell you that I feel so confident about reaching where you are at right now, or what you work so hard to get, shall I put that way?
Yep.
Yeah, I just, Bill, it's pretty extensive, and it's all, there is no way that they cannot look and go, oh my God, well, he's got the diagnosis. He's still complaining of the same thing that he did 44 years ago. So we'll see where it goes. That's why they have supplementals. That's why they have HLRs, and we'll just let the system play itself out, which takes forever, as you know, sir.
It can.
Or it seems like it does anyway. So yeah. So we got the benefits down. I do have a couple of questions for you, Bill. Your podcast is just, brother, it's on fire. And congratulations to you for that. And it's certainly not done just like overnight. I know you're a one-man band. You and I had talked, you do all your own thumbnails, you do all of your own content, obviously.
Right.
And, hard work pays off, and like, I salute you, sir. You are, I truly cannot wait to your next episode. And I'm not the only one that feels like that too. So
thank you.
When you get like some YouTubers that, kind of like got your luck, like teeter-tottering on 100,000 followers, like Clay and, Raider, who's an awesome person, and they mention you all the time. H-Town talks about you. I was on his podcast last night, and just talking about, and all these, not only the hosts of these shows, Bill, it's like, feel good because you got followers, like thousands and thousands of them, that are bringing your name up without these hosts even bringing your name up. So that's
Wow.
very commendable.
Well, that's I'm gratified. I'm thrilled. It's very gratifying.
What sparked you to do that? Just did you have a dream, or?
I had anger, is what I had.
Ah.
I have sort of a built-in problem with things that I sense are unfair. And when I got my first VA disability granted, 10% for tinnitus, and I realized it was difficult to get that first 10%. And I sort of muddled my way through the process without really understanding what I was doing or what I was supposed to do. And once I realized that I had been missing out all these years, not just on disability in general, but specifically what's required for a claim to be approved, it made me kind of mad because I thought, if I'm not getting this, if it's hard for me, it's got to be hard for everybody. And that's just not fair. I don't like it. And so I sat down at my kitchen table and I made my first video by pointing my camera at myself and talking about my first claim and what it took to get it approved. And I uploaded it to YouTube just kind of on a whim. Just let me share this somehow. And it took off from there.
Wow. Dang. I don't know. That's like the coolest story. And I work for this company, and I know, and by no means are you, as the Salty Old Marine, endorsing our company. Well, let's just put that right out there. I will say it for you. But when I called Bill, this is a kind of an interesting thing, because I did have, when I got out of the service, my mom always she said, no matter what it was, if it was a pen, I was, as a little kid, she said, you always would act like a, radio disc jockey. And, here I was, I get out of the service and I knock on the door at the radio station because it's something that I really wanted to do. And if we want to do something bad enough, we chase that dream.
Sure.
And so I knocked on the door and I said, can I speak to the station manager, please? I was 22 years old, man. I was like a cherry. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I walked, they gave me a tour. I looked in the control room. I'm looking at the guy that was on air at the time, and I'm looking at this big board and all these knobs, and it was a little like, whoa, And long story short, 3 weeks later, and I told him, let me back that up. I told him, I said, if you will let me sweep the floors, vacuum the carpets, make coffee for you guys, I'll do that all for free if you just let me watch, because I know I can learn. This is something I've wanted to do since I was a child. And I was in that business for 15 years, and it was amazing. Did I make money? No. I lived the paycheck to paycheck in the 80s kind of thing, you know what I mean? But it was so much fun, and I am not ashamed to say that I did live paycheck to paycheck, and I did go on to be successful in other ventures in my life, thank God. And I said this to, I was talking to Vic about this. When I built this studio, and Bill, this probably will kind of resonate with you a little bit. When I built it, I got it all built, and I just had the blue lights on in the background, right? And I'm walking by, and all of a sudden I just and my wife goes, "What are you doing?" I'm just standing there outside the doorway, just looking at this studio that took me like 2 weeks to put together. She said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, I feel like when I bought my first car, because you're out there with your buddies and all that stuff, and you get home and you shut the door, and then you open the window and you look out at that car and go, wow, man, that is so freaking cool. And it was like the biggest piece of crap, but it was like a big thing for us at 16 years old, right?
Sure, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a milestone. At that age, it's you think you made it to the top, man.
Sure.
And I stare at this studio sometime thinking, wow. It's like I have my own radio station back in my home, and it's just so darn cool. And I'm so stoked about getting the show on the road, which will be a tremendous feat in itself. Because, as you know, Bill, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work with your research and your, trying to get people to believe in you and selling yourself, but not overselling it, because there's a lot of creeps out there, and. As well as I do that you can be anybody you want to be on the internet. I mean, I just got done cleaning out our YouTube channel, and it's like, God Almighty, what these people say, and it's just, it is what it is. It's just,
Sure.
that's what they make a block button for. I'm sure you know what that's about for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you see, Bill, in the future? I know you're going to be retiring here in a couple of years, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
I see big things for you because if you trend where you're going right now, so in a year, so just like 16 months, so you say you got 15, say you get 15,000 a year, because you get, I mean, I just watch your ticker go up, and so where do you see where does Bill see himself down the road?
I honestly don't have a goal in terms of number of subscribers. I think it's great if that goes up. I hope it does, because more subscribers hopefully means I'm reaching more veterans. So that my plan is to, of course, reach as many veterans as I can, and hopefully with, helpful and actionable information that they can do something with. My goal is not just to entertain. In fact, I probably don't entertain very much, but I hope to educate. And if I can be a resource in that sense, and that's really what I want to do. As I slide into retirement, my plan at this point is to be able to devote more time to the channel, which hopefully means more time to maybe travel, more time to get people on my channel like you're doing right now. I've never done that on my own before. I've done a couple of live streams, but I've never invited anybody to my channel with the intent of sharing information. I'd like to do that. So these are the kinds of things that I would like to do more of. As you know, I was just out of town on a trip to the Michigan Veterans Leadership Summit in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I'm putting together some videos based on that information that I gathered right now. That was actually the first time I had spent the night away from my house in 7 years. Because of my PTSD.
I knew exactly where you were going with that.
But I was, I stretched myself. I pushed myself hard. And in the end, I was really tired, but I was proud of myself. I'd like to be able to do more of that after I retire. It's part of my getting better as well.
So you touched on, I don't even need to ask you this question because you literally walked me right into it, Bill. I have that same, it's not fun. I will be put out to the world, and I don't know about your situation, but I will tell you something about mine real quick. For those of you veterans out there who suffer from PTSD, and some of them, honestly, they just think that that's what their mindset's like, and they don't have any idea. And God help those who never tried to help themselves, because we all have to help themselves. Bill, do you find having that you find like a comfort, you put yourself in a box a lot? Because that's what I do. I'll give you an example. I got like 10,000 examples, quite frankly. My wife will sit there and I have like the most support. That's huge, because I went through a few relationships that did not support my attitude, which was, and it can be crazy, and I think you can attest to this. My wife will come up. First of all, I'm very easily spooked. Very. My wife will come up behind me. It just happened last week, and I come, Bill. I turn around and my fists are like this. I
jump out of my skin.
Yes, the old fight or flight mode. It's like I get like my eyes are bigger than silver dollars, and I clench my fist, and I'm ready to fight, brother. You know what I mean? I'm ready to get it on, and I'm like, holy crap, that's my wife. You know what I mean? But she'll ask me, like, come up from behind me and say, hey babe, what do you want for dinner? And I'll just like snap at her, and I know it's not right. I can't do anything about it. I just have to keep it under control. And I do, but she does not deserve to be talked like that. And for every time that I do that, that's every time that I have to apologize, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and I asked you, and we'll get back to that in a second, but my comfort zone, you're going to think I'm kidding you. If I'm not watching YouTube at night, I'm watching old episodes on Pluto TV of Andy Griffith. It might sound stupid, but we all have our comfort zone, right? And do you know why I do that? Because it puts me in a simpler little box where it makes me laugh. I want to laugh before I go to sleep. I don't want to be mad when I go to sleep. It's, you and I grew up in a very simple era, not like today's world. To bring light to that, I watched one of your videos where somebody shot your back window out going down the road.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, that would scare the holy hell out of me, brother.
It did.
Wow. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's not a laughing matter, but so when I watch old episodes of Andy Griffith, that's just one reason why I'm in my own box, and, I just want to go to bed, but and then the next morning I wake up with a migraine. I'm sure you've had those, and now I've failed every triptan that is known to man. Every one of them. There was 3 of them, and none of them work. I had one 2 weeks ago, and we don't talk very much. I've spoken to you like maybe 2 or 3 times on the phone, and over the past 3 months or so. And I appreciate that. But I had a migraine. It was 2 weeks ago. I woke up with it. Bill, it lasted for 14 hours. 14. And I took every medication that the VA told me to take. And now they've got me going finally to a neurologist. And they were talking maybe some Botox or some Ubrelvy. And I think there's another thing. In fact, Clay has I think he's endorsed by it, right? Some kind of thing where he puts... I don't want to like talk out of turn. I don't want to say what the wrong name of it is because
I forgot the name, but I actually ran into a lady at the summit that I was just at who works for the company that distributes those, and I'm going to try and get back with her. They've got that approved for a lot of VA medical centers, but some VA medical centers are still resistant to distributing those. They, according to her, they stimulate the vagus nerve.
That's it. That's it.
So it's interesting. I am still seeing my civilian neurologist for my migraines, and I am on a monthly injection of something called a Jovi. And the VA, it's not in the VA formulary yet, but it does work for me, and it really works wonderfully. It's a once-a-month injection, which I'm not fond of, but it just stops my migraines dead.
Does it really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, congratulations. Yeah. Wow, would I like to have a shot of that, Bill? Did you ask for extras?
I'm fortunate that my employer's insurance pays for it because it's really expensive.
Well, so I was talking to a veteran, and I don't want to say his name because he was supposed to be on my podcast last week, and I would like to say a little prayer for my man. And he's not a YouTuber. He's just I just don't want to put it all out there, but I do feel so bad for him because we were supposed to do a podcast last Saturday, and he texts me, he goes, I'm ready to do this. He goes, do you want to do it from the hospital live? And I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? And he goes... And he sends me a picture of him in the ER, like all hooked up and stuff. And he goes, they found a hernia. And I'm like, I'm doing like the typical guy thing, right? I'm like, hey, bro, is the nurses hot? Or, like all the stuff that guys talk about, right? And, just trying to kind of keep his spirits up because I've had a bunch of hernias and I know all about them. And, I've had 12 of them, Bill, if you wanted to know the count.
Holy cow.
Yeah, 12. I've had 4 inguinals and then 8 in my chest from a surgery that was when I got to see and I'm going off topic here, but I'll tell you, we'll touch on that in a second, but we'll go back to him. So there's a sense of quietness, and I said, you good? And he goes, the hernia was just the beginning of my problems. He goes, I can get with that. He goes, that pain's fine. He goes, they found cancer in my bladder and my appendix.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh, man. Talk about screwing up your day, man.
yeah.
So I've been trying to be a support system to him because I went through this same thing in 2015. Thank you to the U.S. Army, which is neither here nor there. I signed up for it. I thought I was having a heart attack, and come to find out, I'm trying to be, like Mr. Tough Guy, hey, yeah, I'm trying to breathe, Bill. I'm like, my wife turns around, and I'm like, trying to get a clear airway, and then she turns around, and she goes, babe, she goes, you don't have any color in your lips. They're completely white. So we end up at the emergency room, and then the next thing I know, I got like 8 people working on me. Fast forward, tumor between my liver and my pancreas. This is in 2015. I go to the VA. They send me to the oncologist, and he says, do you have your affairs in order? And have you ever worked with explosives? Really strange question, because the VA doctor does not look up what your MOS was. They just want to know what this was caused by. It's my understanding anyway. And I was a 12B, which is a combat engineer, and I was an explosive expert. And I'm like, wow, and of course you think you're going to die. And I'm not going to lie to you. Of course, by the time I got out of there, I'm in bumper to bumper traffic, and, so thank God it was benign, but a 10-hour surgery and a couple of weeks in ICU was not fun at all. And we will just leave it at that and see how all that plays out. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to deny it or what, but that was a bad time in my life. Let me tell you that. Came home on a walker, was out of work for like almost 3 months, and it was bad. So, yeah. So anyway, let's talk about some fun stuff here. So, I see you on a lot of different platforms. I'll just be flipping through YouTube, and hey, there's Bill. And it's like, which is really cool, and it's very flattering. I'm proud. Like, you and I have never shook each other's hand, but I do consider you my friend. And
sure. Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean that, and my military brother. You know what I mean? We if we would have went to battle, you and I, the Marines and the Army, they typically work with the Army and the Navy, and I never saw any wartime. I know a lot of people who have. We lost some people in my family back in Nam, and all that. But I do see you on other platforms, which is super cool because. I always look at the comments, and some of them are, like, oh, you probably shouldn't say that or whatever. I wouldn't have said that. And, and people may say the same thing about me. Who knows? But for the most part, I have to congratulate you again. And I know I did this at the beginning of the show, Bill, but my God, there's so many people that you have helped, including myself.
Thank you.
And that's just a really, really cool feat to know that every time you turn your camera on, you're helping you have the possibility of helping another veteran or several veterans, whatever the case.
Honestly, that's the whole reason I make the videos. I'm fortunate enough that I don't need any extra income right now.
Sure.
That may happen after I retire. I don't know, but I'm doing fine, and I'm doing this because I can and because I care. And if I get feedback that I've helped somebody, that just does my heart so much good. It's exactly what I want.
As it should, and I truly see you. I truly see the Salty Old Marines channel just blowing up, and I see you helping more veterans than you have up to this point, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's the goal. So I hope to help as many veterans as I can.
It's the coolest thing, Bill. I mean, I just, I dig your thumbnails. You told me how you do those, and I would like to take some of your advice on that. You're extremely well spoken. You're kind of just to the point, and you put things in perspective in a way that you're kind of like I'm not a churchgoer, but I'm very spiritual, if that makes sense. And when I did go to church, whether the priest or the preacher, some people will be doing some different things like during the sermon or whatever, and then it's time to get out of there and they go home. I think when you do your whole podcast is a sermon, and I think people should take it as gospel, because all of that stuff is true in a lot of ways.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I have made mistakes on my videos. I've been called out by viewers who caught my mistakes, and I'm grateful for that. I try to research as carefully as I can and not make too many mistakes, because this is important stuff. I don't want to help screw somebody's claim up, right?
Oh,
So I do my very best, and hopefully I'm getting better.
speaking about claims, Bill, let's jump back into that arena for a second, if you don't mind.
Sure.
How did you? And I'm kind of like in the same boat. I used a VSO. Did you use a VSO?
I tried to use a VSO once, and it was not a good experience.
So there's like I don't know if it's a 60-40 or a 50-50. I mean, I see stuff on the internet like, yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of my VSO for like 3 weeks, and they're not returning my call.
Yeah.
That kind of, excuse the expression, but pisses me off, man. Why is this person getting paid to do this? Like if it's for a county or something like that. I don't know if it's VFW guys or the American Legion or the DAV or what. I don't know if those guys get paid. I think those are like pro bono or whatever, but they're doing it on their own time. But I know the one that I go to, I think, I'll let you know after my claim's done, but she answers all my emails. If I have a question about, hey, what about this? She'll call me, and that is key, because the veteran, there's a lot of veterans. Would you not agree with me, Bill, that there's a lot of veterans that just say screw it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen many of those comments on some of my videos, and that breaks my heart, because so here's something I learned at the Michigan Summit earlier this week that I thought was interesting. For speaking only for the state of Michigan, only 22% of eligible veterans are partaking of any type of VA benefits, whether that's health care, VA disability claims, or anything else. Only 22% of eligible veterans are involved with the VA in any way, shape, or form. And that means that almost 80%, 78% are not using the VA for anything. That bothers me a lot. I also was told that, again, speaking for the state of Michigan only, VA disability claims, just the claims, coming into the state of Michigan amount to $3 billion a year. Now, that's $3 billion that goes into veterans' pockets tax-free. And, of course, they're not just sitting on that money. They're going out into the community. They're buying groceries. They're making their car payments. They're doing all those things, right? So that's basically $3 billion of taxpayer money that's coming back to the state. We pay taxes as citizens, and this is how the federal government works. It takes the money in and it doles it out. But this money comes right back to the veterans in Michigan, who then spend it inside the state. I think that's amazing, but it could be more if we could get more veterans involved in getting their VA health care, getting the benefits they've earned, all that sort of thing.
Agreed. Man, wow, that's an amazing statistic.
I was so glad that I went to the summit. I learned a lot.
I'm sure you are, and I'm sure of it. Wow, that just kind of blows I did not see that coming. I kind of got blindsided by that one, Bill. Wow. And not only that, we are talking like correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong on this, but I think like you and I and the rest of the veterans from the U.S. are like 1% of the population. Am I right in saying that?
I believe it's something like that, and we're
Yeah.
declining. We're declining rapidly.
Yes.
So as the last of the World War II veterans and many of the Vietnam veterans start to pass away, the number of veterans that exist in the country is getting a smaller number all the time.
I have a very interesting statistic. I was very fortunate to take care of my 94-year-old, almost 95-year-old father-in-law who lived with us until his last breath. World War II. He used to be like up until 2 weeks before he passed, Bill, he could like Google, he would email people. I mean, you'd send him an email, he'd send you one right back. It was amazing for someone, in that era. But he was also very smart. Lied about his age at 16. Shocker, right? He told me, and this so I know you can't see this, but my hair is standing up on my arm because I loved my father-in-law, and we used to sit out. He lived with us for the last 8 months of his life, and it was not all bad. It was a lot of fun. And we used to sit outside, and we'd bust balls all day long. He just had that kind of, I don't know, he was just such a good guy. And I hope everyone gets to talk about their father-in-law like that, whether it's World War II or not. But he told me so many stories, and he goes, I grew up in such a different generation than you will ever see in your lifetime. And I believe that. He goes, we were true patriots, and whether we were Republican or Democrat or independent, we all wanted to fight for our country. And if it meant going down there and signing the dotted line at 16 years old, lying and know you were lying to go protect your country, we all did it. And I'm like, wow, Dad. And he goes, yeah. He goes, you know what the funny thing is, Bruce? I said, what's that? He goes, the funny thing is, he goes, we lied about our age to get in, and now these SOBs make up these lies to get out. And I believe every bit of what he said. And not all veterans are like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not speaking for all veterans, but there is some people that should not have do or whatever. I don't want to get into that's for another show, honestly. But he just made so much sense what he told me that will always resonate with me. He was just like the coolest guy, and oh man, it was. Bill, that was a super cool thing to do, was to care for and be the caretaker and be his medical advocate at the VA. He didn't even realize he was available for this and available for that. Like all of these like nephrologists and heart doctors, and he was like paying out the butt through Humana, through a private insurance, and didn't realize that he had all this stuff available through community care in the VA.
Right. Yeah, I've talked to several people like that who had to get have to help their parents get involved with the VA because they didn't know.
They didn't know about it. They didn't know. I mean, we had, so take a wild guess what the average, and you're going to be way off, and that's fine. Take a wild guess what the average age of our client is today. Take a guess. Average.
I'm gonna guess 55.
Woo, man, you are the closest that anybody ever got, Bill. 58. You are the closest, because everybody would think that it would be like the younger generation trying to get free stuff, right?
That's what they like to say.
That's exactly correct. Yeah, it's 58, and oddly enough, we just helped a gentleman. He was, and you may have seen him on the previous podcast, Terry Brown. What a nice gentleman. He was of that era where he thought that he wasn't eligible for
Right.
VA benefits.
Yep.
And he got 100% at 78 years old. 78.
Yep.
That is sad.
Yes, it's good that he has it, though.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. And he said one of his statements, which would make a great short. He goes, "Yes, I saved the government a lot of money," and he was right. He was 100% correct. But wow, can you imagine that 78 years old and not knowing that you're eligible for benefits? That is not right, man. That's not right. So, what are you going to do, buddy? I mean, that's just yeah. One more thing, Bill. I think it's cool when I see other podcasters. I'll be flipping through. I flip through YouTube every single night because honestly, and you may do too. And I think it's a good learning tool. Because
yeah, it helps me
going.
It helps me make videos because I see what the pain points are.
Sure.
So I read the comments, I watch the videos, and it kind of informs me of what do veterans care about right now, and so yeah, I tend to just kind of operate off of that.
It gets the gears turning in your mind, is what you're trying to tell me, I believe, and I think it's the coolest thing when I see another veteran who's got a podcast, and I see them putting your content up there, and they'll play clips and they'll stop it and they'll go, "He was 100% correct," and they'll play another clip. Did you see what he said? Like taking key points out. And truly, Bill, like, I'm not kissing your butt at all. It's like, you should be so proud of how many people that you have helped. I'm like, bravo to you, sir.
Thank you.
It's so cool. That's so cool. And I think you know me well enough, Bill, that I'm not kind of BSing you and schmoozing you. I'm being like, because I have taken part of what you have, by watching your videos one by one, and taken these processes and used them in my own claim. And the only thing that I don't have, and bless his heart, is a buddy statement. I don't know if you still keep in contact with any of your friends at all, but I was palled up. We roomed together. I mean, we dated the same. We dated sisters. I mean, it was crazy back in the early '80s. And his name was Dave, and he passed away unexpectedly on January 17th of this year. And he was going to write my buddy statement for me, because he could see the changes.
Right.
He goes, "Yeah, brother." He goes, "You're still like the same person, but you're not the same person." And we talked a lot about it. And I'm like, "Yeah, Dave, I got this going on. I got that going on." But, I will tell you, like, take my problems and his problems away from the conversation. Every time I did speak with him, I thought it was an honor to be, your pal for that many years, and your brother, and always having each other's back. And I do miss him, but it also, when things were good and good conversation, it would take me right back to, we would start talking about all the fun we had. And, remember this when we got in the motor pool, like after the club closed and we had the keys and we took a Jeep for a ride with no lights. I mean, just crazy stuff, and having a ball that thank God we never got caught, because people like you would have put us in jail. But, it was just so much fun. I don't, sometimes, well, I mean, you're basically the same age as I am. 20 years goes by in a flash.
Yeah, it does.
And I think to myself, wow, I could have stuck it out, and I didn't. And, I missed the retirement, or I could have, so I did 3 years active and 3 years inactive. So that's, 6. And then I could have got a civil service job and still got a pension.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that either, So
Right,
I hope
right.
what we talk about here helps someone, that's still in the military or just getting out, and use that service against their civil service if that's the route that they, so choose. So, but Bill, this has been great. Like I said, Santa Claus has finally arrived at my house. I know it's the middle of May, and we never get snow in Florida, but not in this part anyway. But I absolutely have enjoyed myself, and keep doing good things for good veterans, my friend, because I have all the faith in the world that not that your channel hasn't blown. I think it's blown up a lot. But I see big things for you in the future, and nothing but well wishes going forward, Bill.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate it. I wish the most for your channel as well. I know that you've been working hard to get this going, and if I can help push it along in any way, I'm happy to do that too.
Thank you. It's a lot of sleepless nights I have, and you'll the old ADD kind of kicks in sometimes, and you think you're going to sleep, and all of a sudden you go, oh, and then I better write that down.
Oh, sure.
And then you write it down, and then you lay back down, and then you spend 3 hours thinking about what you just wrote down and how you can, either make it work or make it better. So
right.
It's just been a lot of sleepless nights getting this baby rolling, and I'm glad we're finally doing it. And thank you for being a part of it, because it truly, right here, buddy, right here, man. You have no idea. You have no idea. Much respect, sir. Much respect.
Thank you so kindly.
Sure. And so we will bid adieu, Bill, and thank you for, it took me a while to get through to your media team to get you booked.
Yeah, I can see where it could take a while.
But no, this has been great, Bill, and thank you so much. And I hope down the road that I'll have you on again.
I would love to do that. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Absolutely. Let's make a date, Billy.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Semper Fi, brother.
Semper Fi. Take care.
And there you have it. Until next time, thanks so much for stopping by. We really enjoyed having you. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Service Connection Podcast.